From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin Energy.
The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, the ear test, not the eye test. We weren't able to watch practice, but we heard a lot from head coach Mike Norvell. We share our thoughts. The mentality, how much of it is going to be shaped from last year's failures, and we're generating discussion sparked by Cummins. Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com. Shake it and take it, everybody. Sip the juice. Clinically tested, clinically proven to enhance your mood, enhance your focus, enhance your workouts, enhance your immune response, enhance your hydration levels. Some of these got electrolytes in them. Use that after a long weekend, everybody. VitaminEnergy.com. Shake it and take it. Synergistically enhanced, Corey, is what they call it.
Okay, all right.
Kind of like Tony White, Tale of Two Tonys, nice guy Tony, gruff Tony when he's got to be, the synergy, the yin and the yang. Right. All that sort of stuff. Warchant.com's got all that sort of stuff when it comes to Florida State football, everybody, and at a reduced rate. Join now for only $1 a week for a year. So I think you get billed for $52, but you get access for an entire year. So that breaks out, Corey, if my math doesn't elude me right now. $1 a week.
Yeah, they're well done, Aslan. Well done.
And Gene Williams is like, not enough. I want to give these people more to come back. And listen, I don't know how this works. If you've left us, I don't know if you can use this as like a win back or if this is for first-time people. But listen, man, a lot of y'all left us. And it's all right, whatever. I don't take it personally. But come back home. Because if you do it right now, we're going to throw in a $20 gift card to Garnet and Gold. So $52 for an entire year of Warchant.com as we get ready to go into the playoff. Coming off the heels of going back to Omaha, OKC as well. Loucks signing an awesome recruiting class. Get all of it for the next year for only $52 and a $20 gift card to Garnet and Gold and all the great insight from Corey Clark in the written word as well as the spoken word. How are you, Corey Clark?
I'm good, Aslan. Thanks for asking, buddy. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm not going to complain about the timing of the spring practice. You can't make me happy, right? Like either I'm grumpy because we got to go there too early in the morning or we have to go there late in the evening and then it affects my schedule for eating my food. But I'm good. I'm okay with practice being closed. I think we kind of touched upon that. I'm moving on. We'll see if the door is ajar for maybe going back in the fall. If not, we'll do the best that we can. I thought you and Ira did a really good job recapping things on the Warchant wrap that you two did. So now I guess it's my turn to continue the conversation. But I'll do that by asking you a question, Corey Clark. What was your big takeaway, I guess, from either Justin Cryer, who you spoke to, or Mike Norvell, the head football coach that we spoke to?
Yeah, it's hard to take a lot. I don't mean this rudely, but it's hard to take a lot from Norvell. He's always going to speak in a way that kind of couches everything, I feel like. Kind of like the guy that's talking right now. If you listen to this show for the last 7 or 8 years. So it's always going to be hard to take much away. It's also hard to take away a lot from a first practice anyway, even if you watch it. Which we didn't, but even if you were to watch it, you're not making you're not making great declarations after one practice in March. But with Cryer, I would encourage everyone to go listen to that video or watch that video and listen to it. Do both. Don't just watch it with no audio. You know what I mean? That's ridiculous. And also, don't listen to it and not look at it. That's weird too. So do both. Use as many senses as you can. But I think with Cryer, I just think it's interesting, and he's never going to – and I wouldn't want him to talk bad about the former regime and the former defensive coordinator. I wouldn't want somebody that did that. But the way he talked about Tony White, especially as a linebacker in that scheme, it's 3-3-5. Last few years, Florida State was just playing probably as many two linebacker defenses as anybody in the conference, I would think. Now they play essentially a 3-3-5, but they do a lot of different things, and they're all learning it, other than Stephen Thompson, right? The kid that came from Nebraska with Tony White that was also with him at Syracuse. He knows it, and Cryer said he's a great resource, but the way he talked about how Tony White fills them with confidence and to play fast and free, I just think I don't know that can be oversold, like how important that is. Obviously, you want them to know what they're doing, but that's number one. But to have them be confident in that they know what they're doing and play fast is most of defense. Be where you're supposed to be and be violent and physical. And it's hard to be violent, physical, and fast and urgent when you're tiptoeing around because you're not quite sure where you're supposed to be. It sounds like, the way Cryer describes it anyway, Tony White coaches in a way that makes it easier for them to absorb information. It gives them and instills them with a lot of confidence, which, as you've heard me on this show over the years, I am a big believer in it because it makes you such a better athlete if you have confidence that you're a good athlete.
Yeah, man, that's really well said. And, one of the questions that we have in our Renegade Express mailbag here is from our guy, Gio Nole, who said, do we feel better about these coordinators knowing what they want to run on their side of the ball? Do we think we've got the personnel to run what they want? And that's a very good question. We're not going to fire up the generator quite yet. But I wanted to fire up this new little stinger I've got, Corey. Buckle up. It's fun. Hopefully people think it's fun. I think it's funny.
And the Rockets, red flag.
It's the ear test, brought to you by nobody. No one at all.
All right, so we can't do the passing the eye test anymore because we're not able to watch practice, which is fine.
Right.
So the ear test. And I feel like the moving around thing sounds great. I mean, that passes the ear test. Like, you want to hear exotic defenses, different angles, disguise blitzes, all this kind of stuff. But I guess it does boil down to, do you have the personnel? I don't think Tony White's going to force square peg into round hole, but maybe that determination will be TBD, because it does sound good, Corey, but there's a level of like athleticism and familiarity that I think you need to be able to execute to be able to pull this sort of stuff off. And I would assume, like, right now in spring, it's like a lot of fact finding. Like, let's see if these guys can actually, it sounds fun. I'm sure all these guys are excited to learn about this and want to do this because it opens up big plays and great opportunities as a linebacker. But I'm really curious when we do get Tony White, I think in the next like 10 days or so, to see just how far along he thinks they're going to be. Because I love the way it sounds, but I just know if it was easy, everybody would be doing this stuff. So I think a lot of it's going to be whether or not he thinks he's got the right pieces to do it. But Cryer's a smart guy. Blake Nicholson's got speed. There's guys have tools. They have all the tools to do it. We'll find out sooner than later. We're going to have to wait to hear about it, though.
Yeah, and then see it maybe in the scrimmage we watch in the spring, hopefully, and then obviously once Alabama gets to town, we'll know about it then. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Look, is this the roster he absolutely wanted? Of course not. These aren't guys he recruited, other than like maybe 5 of them. So he's going to, as he's here longer, he's going to get more guys that are maybe better suited for this. But that's not to say that they're ill-suited for it. I don't know. The way he talks, I don't know. It's not like when I brought this up before, but when Harlan Barnett switched to the 3-4 defense.
When Jim Levitt stopped by?
Yeah, well, it was when Mickey left, when Jimbo left and Willie's first year, they had been recruiting defensive tackles to play in a 4-3 for 40 years. And that's all they had on their roster. And then they switched to a 3-4, which those are different. You know, you're lining up right over the center. You're big. You're supposed to be a bigger body. And they didn't have those kind of guys. And I remember Travis Johnson, the All-American Travis Johnson, we had him on the program talking about that was one of his biggest concerns, is getting a defensive line that's used to playing 3-4, playing a 4-3 to switch to a 3-4. The way they talk about being multiple, we'll see, man. Darrell Jackson, I think, should be good enough that it won't matter if there's 2 other defensive linemen next to him or 3. But the linebackers, that's what you get paid the money for. I'm not talking about the kids, but them too. Like, you're getting NIL deals, be good. But that's why Tony White and John Papuchis get paid, is to put square pegs in round holes if they have to. Like, they're not that square of pegs. It's not like there's just only one set of a physical specimen that can play for you at linebacker. Like, it takes all kinds. It's not like Nebraska had a stranglehold on those kind of linebackers over the last 2 years, or Syracuse. You make it work with what you have, And that's why you brought him in, is because he's supposed to do that, just like on the other side of the ball. Malzahn doesn't have, is it Harvey? Was that UCF's running back?
Yeah.
Yeah, the good one.
Harvey.
He doesn't have one of those on this roster, but make it work, Gus. That's what the money is for. That's what the paycheck is for. Figure out a way to get your offense to work with what you have. And luckily, they get, these 15 practices in the spring, and then whatever it is, 21 or 18, whatever it is in August, and then you get Alabama. And then basically 2 scrimmages. So by heading into Virginia on that Friday night at the end of September, they should have figured out exactly what they have on this roster and make it work as well as it possibly can. That does not mean it's going to be a national championship roster, or is. There are going to be – it's a learning curve, a big one, with 2 new systems being installed. Gus's isn't as, different as the one the defense is learning. But there's going to be some learning curve and some growing pains, and this is not probably a national championship roster. So it's not going to be a great football team, I don't think, but it could be a pretty good one, starting hopefully with what they did on Wednesday.
Had a bit of a false start earlier. This one, though, this is going to be the winner. Wing Knoll, wake up. Can we expect to see coaches continually start players this year that do not appear to be giving maximum effort? Last year, we had multiple players on defense starting game after game who clearly lacked passion and effort, yet all year long, they were still out there making no impact at all. This was, even after the season was totally lost, but they were still rewarded as starters. This question always sparks conversation. Dare I say, generates discussion, sparked by Cummins. Corey Clark, please. It's generating discussion. It's sparked by Cummins. Give them a follow on Instagram. It's all one word, Cummins Lifestyle. So many awesome things they're doing over on their Instagram page that you can see, all with the power of Cummins products, the Onan line of products, the portable generators, the portable power stations. Shout out. I hope everybody in South Mississippi that listens to the show, things are trending up for you folks after the horrendous weather event. But Corey, I was checking my PS1000 portable power station to make sure I had like full juice before those storms were maybe go through this past weekend. And dude, I don't think I used it since maybe one of the hurricanes came through. It was still at 98%. It was ready to go. I didn't have to use it, obviously, because Tallahassee got spared mostly. So these things work legitimately. Check it out. Cummins Lifestyle over on Instagram. All right, Corey. So this was a question that people always be talking about of late, right? Guys not giving enough effort and still getting out there and playing. Cam Davis, go check out his interview. But he talked about how there's no BSing. It's all work and it's constant work. And it feels weird saying that, Corey, because listen, when we watched them practice in 2024, we weren't looking around and saying, oh, they're dancing, they're laughing, they're taking plays off. I've got video of Jared Verse between reps in 2022 laughing and smiling. You can have fun and smile and still take care of your business. So I thought they practiced fairly hard last year. But I guess when you hear a guy like Cam Davis say, there's no BS, this is all work, it's all business, at least for day one. I mean, you can only take him at his word, but that's obviously something great to hear because people keep thinking about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I think Wing Knoll's real question is more about not just how they practice, but how they looked playing the games last year. It wasn't like they weren't playing hard. It's one thing to not practice hard, which should never be a thing. But when you're playing in front of, millions of people sometimes, certainly in front of tens of thousands, and you care at all, you would think you're going to give maximum effort. I think the problem there was twofold. Number one, maybe not the best personalities at some of the position groups, maybe not the most urgent, fiercest competitors that you'd want, but also, let's just use the 2 defensive ends for an example. I know they became punching bags late in the year. Let's say Peyton and Marvin Jones, you're just I can't watch this anymore. Y'all aren't giving the effort, the requisite effort that we want. Marvin, you won't hold an edge at all. Peyton, half the time when you rush and you get stood up, you just stand there. It's just hard to watch. We're not playing you anymore. The problem is, and this goes back to the recruiting, you didn't have anybody behind that you're those guys absolutely have to play. Even a 60% Patrick Peyton was better than 100% some of the other guys. So that's where the problem was, I think, especially when you're like Adam Fuller and you're trying to save your job. You roll some of those guys out there that might play with 100% effort, they're going to get mowed over. But which I guess the counter to that is, well, they got mowed over anyway. At least have people that are playing hard all the time and giving maximum effort. So to answer the question, but I think that was a problem midway through that season when they were really trying to figure out anything and everything. You can't just start benching your most talented players. You just hope something gets through to them, because in any way it didn't work because he lost his job anyway. And then you could say the same thing for Atkins on the other side. You kept playing guys that couldn't block or wouldn't block well enough, and you lost your job too. So maybe you should have rolled with younger guys and just seen what happened. In hindsight, couldn't have been any worse. But I think to answer this question, I think the roster is better to the point where absolutely. I number one, I don't think Malzahn and Herb Hand are going to put up with that necessarily, and I certainly don't think Tony White and Terrence Knighton are. So no, I don't think if you're going to see guys not giving maximum effort that they'll continually get to start, even though they haven't earned any starting spot. I think especially the guys on this team, because they have no history with any of the four guys I just mentioned, weren't here last year. They did not recruit these guys. They have no history with them. They don't feel beholden to any of these players. They will absolutely make them earn their starting spot, and they'll make them earn keeping that starting spot. So it's a fair question because it was really a bummer to watch a lot of times last season. But I think the dynamics of this new coaching staff, with an uptick in talent across the board on the roster, should really alleviate most of that.
You know, Gus Malzahn just has so much more cachet than any other offensive coordinator in the country, let alone a guy like Alex Atkins. And for Alex Atkins, like, yes, you're offensive coordinator in title and in salary, but you know, how many times in an offensive meeting is Alex really going to get up and maybe say something that, you know, either, I don't know, I don't want to say undercuts, but just something that's going to really like soar over the words of Mike Norvell. Like it's his offense, it's his team. You're the OC, pretty much a name only. Like, what can you really say that's going to, you know, elicit some real, you know, following from the players? Man, Gus, like, listen, Gus is ultra confident, right? Like, he's like, all right, yeah, Mike's the head coach, but this is my offense, my plays, I'm designing them, I'm calling them, I'm the one that had 40 of you new people. Like, I'm the one that brought you in here. So I think that's going to help a lot of people fall in line and realize what the standard is. And then I think Adam Fuller, man, I think give Adam Fuller, and this is not a knock, you give him a room full of professional dudes that are driven and know what they want, he'll stay out of their way and he'll know what buttons to push. But when you have to like really motivate and you know, force guys to find different levels that they maybe don't think they're capable of, I don't know if maybe that was Adam Fuller's calling as a coach, but I think that's Tony White. I think Tony White's got that in him. So there's completely different sort of skill sets, not even skill sets, but like interpersonal skills that these coordinators have. That's not going to even make this, I don't think, an issue. Like, you won't even be able to get on the practice field if you're not playing with effort, let alone a game, Corey.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it really does help that, like, the fact that Malzahn and Hand have such a track record, and Tony White has a nice track record too, it's just a lot shorter, about, like, who are you to give them gruff about anything? Like, what are you going to say to Gus Malzahn? He coached Cam Newton. Like, what are you going to say to him? There's no way you're the best player he's ever coached. And he can tell you that repeatedly. Alex Atkins, I don't know who the best lineman he's ever coached was. It was probably on that team last year, or a team 2 years before. Adam Fuller, he owed a lot of his career to guys that were at Florida State, guys that were a part of that 2022-2023 team. And Tony White owes nothing to anyone. He got here because of what he did at Nebraska and what he did at Syracuse. So I just think I go back to that dynamic where, man, I just think that they won't accept less. Well, and I don't think Adam Fuller woke up every morning and it's like, man, if they don't play hard, that's fine. I think it bothered him. I think he tried. I think he cajoled. But some of them might have been too far gone. Some of them might just frankly not been good enough. And that was a problem that for another generating discussion. Because, yes, that roster, even if it had played as hard as it possibly could, was not a good college football roster.
Shout out to Wing Knoll. He's going to be entered into a drawing at the end of the month for a gift bag from Cummins. You too can be involved if you're a member of warchant.com. Post on the Renegade Express and get your question featured in here. In the meantime, give them a follow on Instagram. Cummins Lifestyles, all one word. Deuces for this segment, Corey. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill going down this weekend. Fun times, live music as always on Fridays. This Friday, Kettle Black going down from 8 p.m. to 11. Saddle up at the bar, get a high top, enjoy the live music, enjoy the delicious food, enjoy the ice-cold beverages. 4 to 7 o'clock happy hour throughout the weekdays, all day on Sundays. And today, Thursday, bingo. Bingo on Thursday, and live music on Friday. My gosh, it's going to be a fun vault into the March Madness weekend that awaits all of us. So make plans, grab a friend, go to the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, cptallybar.com, the website, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. Corey Clark, will you be loitering around Corner Pocket this weekend?
Not sure. Oh, definitely not this weekend. I'll be in Atlanta, but maybe tonight. We'll see. But I should also tell you guys this. Yes, there's bingo, but there's also a bunch of NCAA tournament games. The tournament starts today, everyone.
That's right.
I know the NCAA tournament. Hope you got your bracket filled out. Hope you had North Carolina winning, because holy cow. What San Diego State, that was, you might as well have just had you should have gone 10-20 this year if you're going to get into the play-in game and play like that. That was abysmal. But hey, ACC, baby.
That's right.
ACC pride. You just keep taking a big old heaping crap on this conference, everyone around the country, and all they do is keep getting dubs. Like Hubert Davis is like 8-2 in the NCAA tournament. But anyway, if that even counts, I don't even know if a play-in game should count. But back to Corner Pocket. Got to have TVs on that. Also, the Noles are starting a big baseball series this weekend, Aslan, in Miami. And if I know Bill Hayes, like I think I know Bill Hayes, at least a couple of the TVs will be on college baseball. And I can promise you this, go to another bar in this city, they don't know even how to get a Florida State baseball game on their TVs. It actually matters to Bill Hayes, the guy that runs Corner Pocket. So this weekend, if you happen to be in town and go to Corner Pocket, ask someone to turn on the baseball game if you don't see it, but you're probably going to see it because they care about FSU sports at Corner Pocket.
2475 Appalachia Parkway, cptallybar.com, the website. It's Wake Up Warchant. It's presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com. We resume the Renegade Express mailbag. Island Chief, February's gift bag winner. Wake up. Sleep in, boys. No more morning practices to attend. May have to work on a new title. If no video means never again having to watch video of drills like Taggart's god-awful Nole drill, then count me in. With the new football-only facility, will you guys finally get to have a room to conduct after-practice pressers? No more of it looking like an ambush video. We were in the museum, which if you surveyed 20 people across the country to look at that room and give it a name, 100% of them would not use the word museum to describe it. But yeah, so he was at the podium, a little bit more of a controlled environment. I don't think it was ambush. There was a table between us and Mike last year, maybe even the last 2 years. So there's a little bit more breathing room than poor Willie. That was an ambush. Like his back was up against a fence. It was very uncomfortable. But I don't know. Overall, did he feel any more relaxed to you, more confident? I mean, I know he's got these two coordinators, Corey, that he's going to be able to lean on heavily. And I think you got a lot of questions about just how it's going to look, I guess, with Gus kind of calling the shots. That's got to be an incredible luxury. I don't think there can't be any kind of fear, right? That like Gus is going to usurp this job from you. It's like, I think he'll use this as a stepping stone, not for your job, but to maybe go somewhere else. So this lets you connect with players, give some maybe more, more of a, I don't know, man, like a, he had to play good cop, bad cop. He had to be the scheme guy. He had to be the master of design plays, and he had to be their best friend. I mean, he had to do so many things. I feel like now it's like, Gus can run the offense. Tony White's going to police the defense. I can be what you guys need for that extra 15% gap of not having plays that a head coach really in this day and age kind of makes up for.
Yeah, to answer the other question though, I would assume they will have a place for press conferences in that new building, right? Because the Moore Center won't be football anymore. So the football team would never have a reason to go over there. I guess they could do it. We could still do it in the IPF or on the practice field.
Maybe we'll do it in the auditorium that they have, because a lot of SEC teams do everything is like in the team auditorium, press conferences after post game news conferences, all that stuff.
Yeah, so I don't know the answer to that. Can't wait to find out. But yeah, as far as what you were saying, And that's what interests me the most is Norvell's
machinations.
The overseer of the football team now, like the delegator. How much? Because he's never had to delegate an offense. Kenny was here. Kenny was the OC, sure. Like Tokars was the OC or Atkins was the OC, but Norvell was the OC. And I wonder what that's going to look like. What that looked like on Wednesday, what it'll look like today as the delegator, because I do truly believe. I don't know if there's another OC he would have brought in. Certainly not the guy from UNLV, where he'd have just said, "Yeah, man, do what you want. I'll be over here.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it in a few hours after practice. I'll watch and see what happens." No, there's no way. But he has so much trust, for good reason, in Malzahn. Now, will it bite him in the butt? I don't know. Is Malzahn done? Is he? What do they say when people are? Is he
cooked? Washed?
Is he cooked? Yeah,
washed.
Is he washed? That's what I was looking for. I don't think so. I still think that offense was good last year, even though the team wasn't, and it was very good the 2 years before that. So I don't think Gus has lost it. But there's a chance, I guess. But I just think that it is going to be fascinating to watch that, because I do think we brought this up before. I also brought up on headlines, or Ira did actually, when it came to this point. Like, the offense was so bad last year, and that's his side of the ball, that 85% of his waking hours and probably his sleeping hours. I wonder if you ever had dreams where they scored 41 on Florida. And he's going to the press conference high-fiving, and then he'd wake up and go, "Oh, no, yeah, that's right, our offense is horrible." Like he had to, right? It's like those dreams you have when you're dating some supermodel. Your brain lets you just somehow carve up this life where, I'm dating. I'm me and Demi Moore on the red carpet, and then we got a dinner with my mom. How does your brain even let you convince you that that's real? So I wonder if you ever had those dreams where he's like, "Yeah, and I got to go with DJ to New York for the Heisman ceremony," and then he wakes up and realizes, "Oh no, that's not my life at all." But his life was so consumed, had to have been, by how bad the offense was, because that was his baby. That's his side of the ball. That's what he runs. That he couldn't really devote much time to, hey, why do my tacklers always shoot backwards? Why is there never any urgency? Why does my defense look like that? Why do they never play hard? Ever, seemingly. Why do I watch these other teams fire around have 8 guys around the football and fire off the ball, and then my team looks like they just don't care to be here in the second quarter of every game? So I do think that then him having that kind of trust with Malzahn and kind of handing it over to him, as much as he's willing to, which I think he's willing to a good bit, will have a positive impact on his everyday mental health, but also the football team as a whole.
Yeah, I do wonder. I found it interesting when he was asked about what the changes are, what the changes look like. And I think Cryer said it's some of the sequencing or whatever of the practice. Maybe we can get some more details from other guys. Maybe they're doing 7-on-7 at the beginning of practice, and maybe the 11-on-11's in the middle of it. Who knows? But we don't know how much special teams they're doing. They only got the IPF. God knows. But when he said that the changes were subtle and distinct, and then I think he ended that thought, Corey, with saying, but the approach and the mindset remain the same. So it's basically saying, all right, so my vision as a CEO delegator, my approach, my vision, my mindset that I want this team to have, because it's our team, he said, right? It's not my team. It's not Gus's team. It's our team. We've put this team together. So he's trying to obviously assert his dominance over this team as the head coach, but he's also admitting that there are subtle but distinct changes that they're doing. So he's trying to walk this balance. It does.
They seem like competing thoughts.
They do.
Like subtle and almost like an oxymoron. Subtle and distinct. But yeah, I do think they wouldn't go into detail on it. I asked Cryer about it too. He didn't really go into detail that much about it. But I do think this is. I feel like they had to go over Tony White, and Gus Malzahn, maybe the whole coaching staff, but I would think the three of them sometime in January sat down at a table and for 3 hours hashed out how they want to practice. What works for them, what doesn't work for them.
Absolutely.
I'm sure Norvell pushed back on some, Well, maybe Norvell even basically ran down the list of how he likes to practice. This is period 1. This is period 3. This is period 11. This period, went through every period and then got their thoughts and they worked it out together. That would make the most sense. At the end of the day, it's Norvell's practice, and I would hope he'd say, well, you can want that, Gus, or, yeah, okay, Tony, I hear you, but this is how I'm going to run it. But I also think when it comes to both of those men, he has so much respect for what they've done. Gus has been doing it longer, but just how good they are. That again, this is not a slight, but Adam Fuller was at like Marshall and Memphis, right? He was at Memphis for a year, and he was at Marshall before that. Mm-hmm. He didn't come from Nebraska. He didn't have one of the best defenses in the country the 2 years prior. And he wasn't, and Alex Atkins wasn't Gus Malzahn. Not any close when it comes to the resume. So I just feel like it frees him up to trust that he doesn't have to micromanage that stuff, man. He trusts that these guys know how to produce good sides of the ball because they've been doing it, Gus for 2 decades, Tony White for a half a decade, but they've done it at a pretty high level, and he can trust them to get the job done without having to micromanage everything. I don't even know if that's the question you asked me.
No, just
don't even care. I'm hungry too, Aslan.
No, just it's going to be like a really interesting kind of dichotomy of this guy again wanting to. He's the head coach, but also having to defer to these guys because he found himself in a really bad spot with the way they played last year. Let's go to our guy in Naples, M. Adam CZ. Wake up. Great coverage of the coaches' luncheon this week. Corey, it seems that Tony White has adopted iron sharpens iron. I think he might have said at least twice. Did you give him permission or are you getting a small licensing deal out of it?
It was funny when he said it. Brendan Sonnone looked over and raised his eyebrows at me when he said it. He made a point of looking over and saying that, or looking over and acknowledging that he heard it too. And look, man, I let him go. He's new. He doesn't know. We'll have a talk, much like the talk I was just discussing when he sat down with Malzahn and Norvell. I will sit down with Tony and be like, look, man, it's cool if you say it. Give me a shout out sometime. I don't need it every time, but every 5 times you say iron sharpens irons, if you add, as Corey Clark famously coined, iron sharpens iron, I think that he'll be all right.
Question, on game day, will Gus be in the booth as offensive coordinator? I would think that makes the most sense logistically, and will Gus be picking out Mike's hoodies on game day as well? As much as I'm sure you guys will be missed covering practices, I look forward to your post-practice questions and strategic updates and insights you all provide. 2025, whole new deal. Let's embrace it. Go Noles. He's going to be on the field. I can't imagine. I can't remember the last time Gus was in the. Well, he's been a head coach, so he really hasn't been in the booth.
Yeah, I was going to say, wasn't he on the field for the national? Well, no, he was the coach then. When they won the national championship with Cam Newton, was he on the field for that?
I'm trying to find a photo maybe
of
that.
But I would assume he was, but maybe he was up in the box. I would assume he's on the field.
There's a photo of him in a random game speaking to Gene Chizik, and he's on the field in a polo with a headset on.
Okay.
So,
all right. Yeah. I assume he'll be there too.
Yeah. I wonder Tokars maybe is your eye in the sky? Or I don't know. They've got a huge amount of analysts and all that kind of stuff, so I'm sure he'll have whoever he wants. By the way, Jaleel McRae, former Nole. Never former Nole, you're always a Nole. Who was part of the Willie Taggart era and transferred to FAU, is apparently back in some sort of capacity on staff. We don't know the details of the particulars, but yeah, that's another guy that might be able to help out the defense. But I would think Gus is going to be on the field, but I don't know. I don't feel comfortable asking that question yet. Speaking of which, Corey, should I come out of timeout, self-imposed timeout, because we're not able to cover practice and ask questions?
No.
Okay. All right.
No. Hey, you self-imposed it.
It's true.
Don't let other circumstances dictate your self-imposing.
Okay.
I don't know what the past tense of that would be.
Another thought from the interview yesterday, Corey. What do you think he was trying to tell us, if anything, when he mentioned like a dropped pass that happened? I guess that was his anecdote when maybe asked about how the team was like responding to new messaging. He mentioned like there was a drop pass and they couldn't have it, but he saw frustration, but then like a correction soon thereafter. He's very tight-lipped about anything, and especially anything that's going to even remotely be seen as as negative. And right now, listen, we're not able to watch practice, and I'm not complaining. I'm just pointing that out for some of the people that might have not heard that the 100 other times we've said it. But so anything he says up there, that's gospel. Like, that's pretty much all we have to go by. So, like, why even entertain and say that there was a drop pass? Is that like just showing like faux humility almost? Like, yeah, we're not a perfectly well-oiled machine, but we're having mistakes and we'll work through it and we're going to be okay no matter what.
Well, he was asked specifically about Squirrel White and Deuce Robinson, so it was one of those two guys. He was asked how they did or how they looked or something like that. What was their practice like? And he was talking about the response that one of them, he's like, they've been great. They had a good day. But even then, there's some teaching moments. And in Norvell E's, a teaching moment is an F-up. If a kid throws a pass right to a linebacker or off the bricks in the end zone when a guy's wide open, those are teaching moments, not F-ups. That's Norvell. I speak Norvell. That's what it means to a lay person is an F-up. And so he was talking about he didn't specify who, but he's like, in fact, one of those young men had a teaching moment early in practice when he dropped a ball. It was a drop, and he got really upset, like legitimately mad about it. And so he had to go talk to the person and say, I don't know, he didn't really specify what was said, but like either, hey, man, get your head out of your butt, use two hands, or calm down, just go make the next play. But he said later on in the practice, the kid made a contested catch that was the best catch of the day. My money is that was Deuce Robinson he was talking about, but he didn't specify. But either way, that was the point, that the response and what that does for the younger players to see that kind of number one, to see the care that the kid had when he dropped a pass, like how upset he was that he cared that much that he dropped it's, I guess nothing's meaningless, but a kind of meaningless pass in March, and then was so hard on himself or just expected better of himself. Let's put it that way. And then the next time he gets a chance, he goes up and makes a great catch. That's the kind of response he thought his team had last year and was completely devoid of, but that's what all the good teams in any sport have, is a response when things go bad, or a good athlete. Things go bad, you pick yourself up and you do it again, and you actually make the play or you win the game, that kind of thing.
Since you speak Norvellese, what would you say if you were asked about quarterbacks? Because pushing each other, the competition's pushing one another. I mean, that's pretty much what any coach, I guess, would say when asked about quarterback play. And again, listen, it's the first day, and I think, if we squint hard enough, Corey, we can probably think back to last spring and what the first day was and how it's pretty, just paint by numbers, very simplistic, very just, there's not a lot of good on good. And there's obviously no pads on. There's no physicality. That's a lot of going up against air. So what do you take away, if anything, from, the questions asked about, Brock Glenn's being pushed, Brock Glenn's engaged, because is it more or less likely that Brock usurps the job this year as opposed to last year? Or is it equally no chance?
I would say I would be. The difference, honestly, is that at least last year Brock Glenn was a different look. Like he had a trait that was better than DJ. He gave you something that DJ didn't give you, which obviously was the legs element. Now, he wasn't Jordan Travis, but he was much more mobile than DJ, and it worked out. I mean, he ran for almost 100 yards, Aslan, and they beat Charleston Southern, so it all worked out. But no, seriously, so I would think last year in hindsight, that would make more sense. He took over the job because DJ got hurt. I would think it's the exact same way that he would have to get the job this year, is because I don't know, having watched both of them play in real football games the last 2 years, what he does better than Thomas Castellanos. Sorry, Tommy. He certainly doesn't run better. And Brock Glenn's a really good athlete, but he's not on that level. And I feel like there's similar passers, at least that I've seen. I mean, Brock Glenn completed less than 50% of his passes last year, albeit in a horrible offense, so you can't really judge him that much. But so I just like the fact that he is certainly not a carbon copy of Tommy Castellanos, but a reasonable facsimile, that if Tommy were to get hurt, okay, you've got another, not as mobile, but another mobile kid that can come in and make plays with his legs if need be, and has some competitiveness about him and some fire, seems to be a good teammate. All that stuff does matter. If he's surrounded by better players, it wouldn't be as drastic a drop-off as it was obviously in like the ACC championship game. We're not talking about a drop-off like that from Tommy to Brock Glenn. And I think it's nice that you have a backup like that has experience. But I would be surprised. You don't bring him in, Tommy I'm talking about, to lose the job to Brock Glenn. That does not mean Brock Glenn can't go win it. But it's as I've always said, they used to say about heavyweight boxing fights, right? Like you have to go basically knock out the champ or dominate the champion to get the belt. If it's close, it's going back to the champ. In this case, if it's close, it goes to NIL. And it goes to the guy that's done it in college games before. So the kid you're paying more money, if it's close, you've got to go win the job from him. It can be done. You go dominate practices, and you're clearly better. They don't get paid to play the second worst kid at any position. So Brock Glenn can go prove he deserves to start. He's got 14 more practices this spring and then all of August to prove that he's the worthy starter. I just would be surprised if that happened. Also, hey, shout out to Kevin Sperry, right?
Yeah.
Norvell said that he's the true freshman quarterback, that if you guys don't know, that in 7-on-7 he went 4 for 4 in his first 7-on-7 period, which is I gotta imagine that's pretty rare. It's certainly rare for this place. I've watched all these other true freshmen come in, and I can tell you they never went 4 for 4 on their first 7-on-7s of their college career. So that's a nice start. It's one start. It's 4 passes. Doesn't really mean anything, but it's a nice sign. Yeah. It's a nice productive day.
Jabril Rawls recorded an interception. So
mission takeaway: is Tony White going to tweet that stuff so we know who recovers fumbles and gets interceptions, or does that go away with Fuller?
I don't know. We'll have to ask. Maybe JP can instill and bring it back. Otherwise, I think Jaylin Lucas was a name that was explicitly mentioned and in very positive terms. Obviously, that's a guy that Florida State didn't get any real chance to utilize because he got injured. I think in the first half of game number 2 against Boston College. Again, as we think about this roster, is it a great roster? Is it a championship roster? It doesn't lack options in terms of like diversity of talent. That's a piece of a puzzle that certainly is intriguing, especially when you think about what Gus does and what he has done and what he could do here. Sorry as I trip over my words. We think about all the big bodies, Corey, but maybe a shifty little tool like that can really help this offense get going.
100%. And, he was and I thought the fact that Norvell mentioned him unsolicited was nice to hear. I mean, we just forget, man, especially in hindsight, looking how little playmakers they had on that side of the ball, Jaylin Lucas would have been a really big deal. Maybe not big enough to win an extra game, but I just feel like he's a guy that could turn a 9-yard play into a 60-yard play. They needed all of those they could get last year because they didn't have many of them. So I think that was a missing element, and I trust that Malzahn, in some form or fashion, will find a way to have that guy make some plays. Is he an NFL running back? No idea. Is he even going to play running back at Florida State? I don't know. Norvell was kind of non-committal on that. I think Brendan asked him if he's more lining up in the slot or being a running back, and he's like, Gus is going to get him the ball however he wants to get him the ball. So do with that answer what you will, with what you will. But I think that Lucas is a guy that because he was gone for 10 weeks, you forget how big an addition he might be to the running back room or just the offense as a whole. That is a guy that we don't really talk about a lot, but we probably should just because they don't, other than Deuce and Squirrel White, who else has proven to do anything at the college level at the skill positions, period? Like there hasn't been a lot of proven skill for Florida State skill position players. Jaylin Lucas is one of them. Like that guy at Indiana was an All-American kick returner, and even as I don't know what he had, 5 touches last year for like 60 yards. Think about the rest of the offense and how horrid it was, and that guy was averaging 12 yards a touch. So that I think Gus Malzahn will figure out a way to make that guy a weapon.
So Wake Up Warchant is presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com, shake it, take it. I think this is the last segment of the week, Corey, right? So you're going to be on the road. So it's probably a wrap for all of us. So let's get everything out in the open when it comes to football. So we were talking about running backs there towards the end of the last segment with Jaylin Lucas. Cam Davis is another player that we spoke to. We mentioned him near the beginning of the show. But he, I know Ira you talked a little bit about it in the wrap or the recap, whatever you want to call that. And I don't really know how to exactly play this one out. So obviously I lean on you here, Corey. But, they went 2-10 and they're playing for a school with a really passionate fan base that's very engaged online on social media. And, Cam Davis, I think, talked about, just having to endure all that, realize the fans are passionate, appreciates that. But everybody was feeling 2-10 and it was amplified by, I guess, some of that outside noise. Is that something that we haven't really talked enough about, or is it not worth talking about when we think about this team trying to get back on track? Not like it's us against the world mentality thing, but just how rough that was. Because we talk about how rough it was for the people that paid money to go to these games and travel for it. But for some of these guys that maybe not get full opportunities to play 40 reps in a game, but then their mentions get kind of blown up. I mean, like the chip on the shoulder sort of stuff. Does that matter? Does it mean anything to you? Or is everything all about just the 40 new people that weren't here that had to endure that and the new coaches that weren't here that didn't have to endure that?
I would say that you can't – I don't think you can overstate or overrate motivation. Like if you're – like, look, man, I had a reason to get in shape. This is a weird tangent I'm going on. But I wasn't in very good shape, and I had a reason because of a health scare that wasn't really a health scare, but I thought it was. It's just kind of you look at yourself one time, and you're like, man, or maybe somebody says a joke about how much weight you've gained. And every day you go to the gym, that's in the back of your brain. I'm going to show that person. I'm going to prove that to that person. They're not going to make fun of me again. And Stephanie hasn't. She doesn't ever talk noise about my body anymore. She appreciates this temple.
Respect it.
But no, right, exactly right. But like whatever gets you to the gym, whether it's a perceived slight, a real slight, wanting to show somebody, if you're going to a high school reunion and somebody that used to make fun of you for the way you looked, and now you look completely different, and you're beautiful, or you're ripped, or whatever the case may be, and you want to show off, and that's the drive for the next 6 months to get you into the gym. Well, whatever the motivating reasons are, those are important. And I can't fathom that the 40 guys that are coming back from that football team last year weren't so embarrassed. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I just feel like to get to a place like Florida State, to be recruited by Florida State, you have to be like ultra competitive, like on the elite side of competitiveness. So to go 2-10, you would think that would be like every day you get up. And I don't feel like getting treatment. I don't feel like going to the workout today or running that extra mile or trying to improve my sprint speed by 1/10 of 1 second. I don't want to do that. But man, now I remember South Bend. I remember that feeling. That's the motivation that should absolutely begin. Or the Florida game where they're trying to plant the flag at your field, like whatever it takes, man. I can't fathom that they wouldn't be motivated by that, and that would be a driving force. When in last year they didn't have that. Not that it would have mattered that much, but maybe they didn't quite work as hard. I would just think that's got to be such an embarrassment. It's multiple chips on your shoulder, and they should be attacking every day. Thinking about that.
Hell yeah, Corey Clark.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right.
All right, let's get through the rest of these questions real quick. Our guy Noles North, I don't have the heart to answer this because football just started. Although we didn't get to watch it, not complaining, just pointing it out for the 105th time. But he was saying ever since the settlement and the brand initiative, conversations largely been focused on the stuff that's already been talked about in the realignment thread about whether to go to Big Ten or go to the SEC. So in the past here and on headlines, there's been talk about super conferences, top 64 teams, dare I say brands, kicking out non-powers like Corey's favorite Purdue. Should we shift to a bigger picture? Should we shift to a bigger picture discussion about what the future actually could look like? Will there even be a Big Ten or an SEC? Will there be regional pods, top 8, top 16 brands competing for a new playoff structure? What are your concepts to help kick off a new thread that perhaps our Warchant insiders can opine and drop breadcrumbs for a new 3,000-page thread? And I don't know what the future looks like, man. I mean, it feels like the super mega conference, like more than just the Big Ten and the SEC and a few more of us. The 64 team, 48 thing. I mean, I think 48 might be more of a reasonable thing than 64 programs. Feels like at some point that happens, but I mean, I don't know, like Fox and ESPN are going to both want pieces of the pie. I guess they still can hold on to it. It just, I'm not there yet. Let's get out of this conference and then maybe think about bigger pictures, greener grass. But do you still think about super conferences, Corey? Or are you focused on getting out of the ACC, or just thinking about this team and what it can be now that we've spoken to the coaches and there's been a practice in the books?
Yeah, I definitely think there will be. I don't know what the incarnation will look like, man. I know it'll be different. I do think we're kind of heading down that route, but I don't know exactly how it works. I'm not smart enough, and I'm certainly not clairvoyant to know exactly what this will look like. I do think it will look different, though. I don't think this is feasible. Maybe somehow Notre Dame joins the ACC, and then that saves the ACC in the long term, but I don't foresee that happening. And I just think you're going to have it's going to be instead of 30 NFL, like it's 30 NFL teams right now vying for 14 playoff spots, it'll be 60 college teams vying for 16 playoff spots. And that's what our future will look like in some capacity. I don't know if it's like the SEC is 30 teams and the Big Ten is 30 teams, or there's two 20-team conferences, so it's 40 teams, and there's some independents. I have no idea how it'll work. But I do think, there are already two super conferences. They just would have to get renamed. Or everybody's in one of the two. You just choose the two. There's probably 10 or 12 other schools that you would absolutely need probably to get in. And then, obviously kick Purdue out. Kick Purdue out. I'm tired of it.
Out.
Drew Brees was like 25 years ago, Aslan.
Yeah.
Purdue hasn't done anything since.
I can't think of anybody. Yeah. Rondale Moore?
Exactly right.
Or was that Minnesota?
Yeah, no, he was Purdue, but come on. Zach Edey, different sport, but he was good.
All right, this is a long one. It comes from so we got this one, then we got a hoops question, then we're done though. So
all right.
We got that. Turd Ferguson 904.
Nice.
Hey,
Burt Reynolds, that was Burt Reynolds what do you call it? His fake name. What do you call it?
Was it
Nom de Plume?
Yeah.
It was
is Joey Freshwater?
It was what when Norm Macdonald played him on Celebrity Jeopardy.
Yeah.
Instead of writing down Burt Reynolds, he wrote down his name was Turd Ferguson.
Hey, fellas.
Because he was making fun of Burt Reynolds. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Long-time listener, back to the Ryan Kelly days. First-time subscriber and poster. Man, I don't know if he got the $52 for a year. Hope you did, Turd. Anyhow, this question isn't spring or 25 related, but it's an opinion I've come to develop since the end of last year. I want to see how others think of it. It's not going to be a very popular opinion. These are not my words. I'm just reading them off the screen. Do not at me. Turd Ferguson 904 says, Corey, FSU is the most embarrassing Division I college football program of the last 10 seasons. Factoring in general talent, reputation, expectations into consideration, or at least they have had the most publicly embarrassing moments happen to them in the last decade. It sounds crazy, but let me spell it out. 2014, incredibly talented but underperforming team coming off a national title. Offseason of embarrassing antics, get absolutely steamrolled by Oregon with a goofy drop-back fumble that still gets replayed to this day. 15, decent but embarrassing loss in 15 to Georgia Tech on a field goal block return. Again, a play that still gets replayed. 2016, one of the worst ranked losses you'll ever see against Louisville. Truly the start of an era of achieving so little with so much talent. 2017, broken by Alabama in an awful season culminating in being abandoned by Jimbo for the cult in College Station. 2018, Taggart, swag surfing, Virginia Tech, need I say more? 2019, Taggart, Boise meltdown, Hydragate, need I say more? 2020, Mike's first year, not much of a chance, but the trend of being one of the worst power conferences you'll ever lay eyes on continues for a third straight year. 2021, Jacksonville State, gets replayed all the time. The recruiting flip that we will not talk about, the name of the player. 2022, Signs of Life, but more last minute, high profile, recruiting flops. 2023, one of the most impactful injuries to a player of a team who legitimately had a shot at winning it all, followed by the great snubbering. And then 2024, every vile term you could possibly throw together. That was cathartic. Just want to see if you all can challenge this narrative with another team in the same relative pecking order as FSU in the last decade or so. Thanks for keeping us entertained in the offseason in spite of the depressing post. I say go Noles. That's a lot, man.
Yeah, but do you believe he's really a Nole fan? I think he is, but I'm just asking you.
I mean, that's it could be right. Like signed up just to troll us or something like that to cut us deep.
Yeah, to point out all the embarrassment. Look, man, there's absolutely that is an embarrassment. The Jacksonville State game was an embarrassment. Willie was an embarrassment. Louisville was an embarrassment.
Nothing involving being naked on a boat with a shark, though, Corey.
Well, but here's what I was going to say. So he pointed out the last 10 years. And yes, there have been some lows, some ultra gross lows. I will say this, over the last 10 years, they've had 5 10-win seasons. That's not bad. Florida in that time, 2. So what's more embarrassing? Like Miami, I don't know, 1. So I think when we look at these lows, and they're cataclysmic lows, especially this past year, I think 2024 trumps all of that by a landslide. Anything you mentioned. Yeah, they got blown out by Oregon. They were in the playoff, man. That was not an embarrassing season. They were 13-0 before that game. They had won 29 straight games. It was an embarrassing loss, but that happens. Yeah, Louisville was an embarrassment. They won the Orange Bowl that year.
Yeah.
Yes, they lost to Georgia Tech. They played in the Peach Bowl that year. So even in the midst of their embarrassments, they were better than 95% of the college football teams in the country. And that's the truth. That's legitimate. They were finishing 10th or 12th in the country those years, or 5th. And then obviously 2022 and 2023, they were top 10-ish both of those years. So I think when you look at your program through with that kind of view, because you're so close to it, it does feel like I can understand that. Like Florida did have Georgia Southern, but I can understand how it's the low points. Like you thought Jacksonville State was a low point, the lowest point, rock bottom. And then after a couple years, Norvell found a rockier rock bottom than Jacksonville State. So I can see that. But when you take a step back and you think about, what if you were like I don't know, man, like a South Carolina fan? Yeah, awesome. Y'all won 9 games last year. Yeah. Florida State's done that 27 times since 1980. Great accomplishment. Florida State does that all the time. Might do it this year. Don't know. But I think when you look at it through the lens of other football, but like Georgia Tech, I don't know, Illinois. Well, I know he said Powers. But even like Washington. What about Washington? Washington made a national championship game 2 years ago. What had they done between that and Steve Entman in 1990? Or Mark Brunell, or whoever their quarterback was. Like, what did Washington accomplish for the last 30 years? They've had one memorable season in 35 years. Meanwhile, Florida State, even when they're losing, it's memorable, right, gang? Right? So they lose on extra block kicks and fumbled passes that go behind them. So I get the sentiment of the question. I truly do. Yeah. Because I know there are Florida State fans who are like, golly, this seems like this happens. Like, horrible stuff happens to Florida State at an uncommon rate. I just think that's because you're too close to it. And if you were another program, you'd be like, yeah, man, you didn't have a coach that said that he got death threats because he was supposedly posing with a shark and then essentially got fired because he made it up. I mean, that's an embarrassment. Yeah. That whole team, the Muschamp was an embarrassment. McIlvain was an embarrassing person. So it's just the way. It's just you're when you're close to it, it seems like it can be embarrassing. But literally every school goes through it.
I should have had this like saved up to counter. But all right, so like 2015, that was the year that Will Grier beats Ole Miss, but then your quarterback gets kicked off the team for failing the steroid test. Like, how does that happen to you? Yeah. You come to Doak and get blown out last game of the year, then you go get beat 54-16 in the SEC championship game. They lost the game in the COVID year. They were like top 5, but they lost the game because their player threw a shoe.
That's right. LSU, yeah. LSU, that's right.
You know, your coach whined about Texas A&M not following COVID protocols, and that's the reason that you lost.
Don't forget that Dan Mullen wore a Darth Vader mask.
Yeah, and then you get trolled by...
That was a weirdo.
Then Elijah Drinkowitz is able to like pull that back on you. You've been losing to Kentucky steadily the last several times. So, I mean, Miami didn't kneel on the ball, and they lost a football game. And
talk about that. Yeah, and that's what I want to say. Like, Miami hasn't been relevant. We know this. They haven't been nationally relevant and played for anything that matters. I guess you could say they played for an ACC championship a few years and got blown the F out. They haven't mattered since Sean Taylor was their safety. That's how long it's been.
R.I.P.
So to prove my point, because he's been passed away tragically for a number of years. And the last time Miami was nationally relevant, that dude was on their team. So, again, the grass isn't always greener. I know it feels like it sometimes. And, again, I get it because it comes in the shadows of 2-10, which isn't 2-10 at Florida State is more embarrassing than anything we've just mentioned for those other schools. But when you take the totality of the last 10 years, you've had some really fun moments and some fun players to cheer for.
All right, last one on the way out here. We got a hoops question. Where is my guy here? I think it's Marlon Joker. Not sure if it was this year or last year, but Richard Pitino said he wasn't going to recruit high school players, including a 5-star prospect, because he wasn't losing 3 upperclassmen starters. His focus was on the portal. Do you think the new basketball coach can implement that approach in Tallahassee? Without spring access, I figured I would throw a basketball a bone here. Love the show as always. Which, by the way, so Corey, as usual, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, what's the question?
I guess just Richard Pitino said he wasn't going to recruit high school players. He was just going to go after the portal.
Okay.
Can Luke do that? And I did want to point out, per usual, you being right, me being wrong. Apparently, like Florida's got one of the highest paid NIL programs for their basketball team, and they're going to continue that. I know they obviously were investing in their basketball team more than Florida State, but I didn't realize it was in like excess multiples, where they were considered one of the most like well-heeled teams in all the country. But anyhow,
yeah,
it sounds like he's really focusing on Florida. He said that in his introductory press conference, Loucks, about there's ballers in the state of Florida, and obviously with some of these assistant coaching hires he's made, they have a lot of ties to this state. So, you know, maybe he doesn't have to throw money at a big name in the portal. Maybe there's some guys in the JUCO ranks. I think Daytona's got a JUCO program, and I know Chipola's got a good JUCO program. So maybe that can be part of it. But yes, I would think the portal has to be a large part of at least year one, no?
Oh, I absolutely think so. But he's also got to figure out who's on his team. Like Taylor Bowen went in the portal. He didn't rule out Florida State, but he said he was going in the portal on Wednesday. I think the kid that they had actually committed to them. Don't know his name. Didn't care to learn it. But their lone high school recruit has opened back up his recruitment. So that's to be expected. You know, but it didn't sound like Luke was just going to be a portal king. Like it sounded like he wanted to. Maybe he was talking about portal kids, but I think he was talking about recruiting high school level kids and saying you're going to come here and you're going to develop. And you're going to see how the other kids are going to see how you get developed here, and then they'll want to come here after seeing what happens. That's what it sounded like to me. And also he did say he wanted to recruit the state of Florida. He wanted to keep the best players in the state of Florida. That, to me, sounded like he wanted to be a high school recruiter and not just focus on the portal. But I think the question is, could Florida State focus on the portal? I mean, when you look at their team this year, wasn't it all portal kids except for like Chandler Jackson? I feel like everybody else on their team that contributed was mainly a portal player, except Daquan Davis, too, was a true freshman. That's the way of the world. I think initially, depending on the kind of money he's getting, then, yes, it would make a lot of sense to go get a kid that averaged 16 a game at, like, Iona or Drake or someplace like that. Go get a guy that's done it. I absolutely think you need some of those. But I don't think he wants to be all portal all the time. I do think but he did make the point. We talked about this last week after his press conference. He's not going to try to out-recruit Kansas and Duke for high school McDonald's All-Americans because you can't afford them. Yeah. You can't go pay Cooper Flagg $5 million when again, I keep bringing this up. Link needs some starting pitching, but much moreover, Mike Norvell needs a quarterback. That's more important than one basketball player. But maybe you spend that money smarter on guys from the MEAC or guys from Drake, and that is we'll see, because right now we don't know who's on this roster. Yeah. Like, this is the way of the world in college athletics anyway. But right now, as far as I'm concerned, Florida State has 0 players on the 2025-2026 basketball team. 0. None have come out and said they're staying or they're not going anywhere. But this is the reality for all these schools. But I'm just saying right now, Luke has 12 open spots on his team to go fill out a roster. Maybe 15. I don't remember how many scholarships basketball gets. Good question, though. We'll see. It's going to be really fascinating to see how he handles it.
Sounds terrifying, too. In fact, he's pretty much got nobody on his roster right now when you really think about it that way. But it's accurate. But he'll figure it out because everybody figures it out because there's ballers everywhere, even in the state of Florida.
Hey, before we – absolutely. Go get them, Luke. Go get them. You're a Clearwater kid. Go get them. Before we leave, though, shout out to the softball team. They beat Alabama at Alabama on Wednesday night 5-2.
Hell yeah.
Big Dak energy.
Nice.
Coming through with it looked like a 3-run bomb to put them up 5-2 in the sixth, and they held on for the 5-2 win. The pitching, Aslan, I'm telling you, I like that they're playing these SEC teams or good teams, even if they've lost some of these games against ranked opponents. They're not giving up 14 and 18 runs or 11. Holding Alabama to 2. That's a nice – they got some pitching now. They got some pitching, so that's good to see.
Hell yeah. All right, so are they practicing later today? They are, aren't they?
Yeah, man. Yeah, another round of football practice.
All right. Stay connected to warchant.com, and don't forget, we're running that special promo right now. $1 a week for a year and a $20 gift card to Garnet and Gold. Head over to warchant.com, come up with a cool name, and don't let your first post be something just, agonizing over what's been the last 10 years.
I get it though. I think it was painful. It was painful to listen because those are some snapshots that we'll never forget. But I just want to Dalvin Cook running wild against name a team, South Florida in 15 or 16. Remember those snapshots too. Remember Verse and Fisk torturing Louisville. That's a snapshot. Keon Coleman at Clemson.
Jordan Travis running circles around the Gators in 2022.
Man, there have been even Jordan Travis at Chapel Hill. There have been some fun. Tamorian Terry beating Boston College in front of 44,000, screaming Noles. Like, there have been some really fun snapshots in the last 10 years, too.
All right. We'll be back. Well, no, we're not going to be back another show. Monday. We'll be back Monday. Nice. But warchant.com. Warchant TV, that's our YouTube channel. It's going to be going down. I think we might be at 50,000. Let me double check this.
We're right there. I think we're still right.
Come on, subscribe, everybody. Yeah. Subscribe. Come on,
give us a few more.
He's Corey Mazal. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy.